Okay, so guys, today we are going to talk about how to set up Angular 2 project. And just to give you the brief about the framework, this is a framework which is the second part of the famous framework which is called as Angular.js, which is already known in the market for the last 3 years. So moving ahead, definitely like this particular framework, it doesn't have any not most of the relations with Angular 1. So that means the prerequisites for this particular framework to learn would be only JavaScript and advanced JavaScript. And if at all previous knowledge of Angular 1 would be there, it would be really great. Even if at all things are not clear with Angular 1 and you guys are directly working on Angular 2, that would be good to go, because anyways there is a lot of difference between Angular 2 and Angular 1, and it can be a great thing to start with, as it is one of the most powerful framework which we have in the market for single page application development. So in today's session, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up an Angular 2 project for you guys, and would give you a step-by-step method of just creating a normal hello world program, which would be helpful for you guys to understand the stuff. And we would be do much of talking in between. Like, I would like to explain you the basic concepts over there of Node.js and TypeScript and etc etc. Let's just go on. Let's just start with Angular 2 setup. So there's only two things which you need as prerequisites over here. First of all, you just need something called Node.js. If you just go on your browser and just download Node.js, you can get it on, just Google it down. At the same time, it would install something called npm. That is nothing but it is a tool which comes with with Node. It is called as Node Package Manager. So just to work with Angular 2, you just need Node.js version more than 6. So if at all you just need to, after post installation, if you just need to check whether your node is working properly or not, or what version of node is it, so you just have to type node space -v. It will just prompt you what node version it is. So yes, it is more than 6, and it is good for me to go ahead with Angular 2. At the same time, I'll go ahead with checking up the version from Node Package Manager. It is nothing but npm space -v. Yeah, let me just do it. Yeah, so it is 5.3.0, and it is more than 3, and it's good for me to go ahead, right? So we are going to create a node project, so that you know things would be much simpler if we go into step-by-step process of just understanding what Angular.js and Node.js is all about. Angular.js framework into Node.js application using TypeScripts. Okay, so this was the first step to just check whether the Node.js is there on your machine or not, and what version of Node.js is there, what is npm Node Package Manager is there, right? Going ahead, what we are going to do is, right, I'm just going to browse to a path. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here. I'm going to get info of this particular path. I'll just copy it down properly. I'll just go to this particular part. I am into documents now, and over here what I want to do is I'm just going to create something called a folder called Angular2. It is not really necessary whether you have to create it using something else, right? Like if you can, if you can see, it is just created a text document. I really don't need it. Rather than that, I'll just go there, I'll just create project called Angular2. That's superb. Going here, I'll just go here. If you can see what all folders I can see, I have ls command. You can see I have Angular2 to be flashing out over here. I'll just say as cd, that is change directory, and it would be Angular 2. Right, so now I'm into Angular 2. Once I am into Angular 2, I am just going to give one command to my node, and that is nothing but node npm init. So once I hit npm init, let us see what it'll ask me a hell lot of questions. I'm just going to say press enter for each and everything over here. I'll just say yes. Okay, so now you can see there is one package.json which is created inside my Angular folder where I have just npm init. So what I'll do is I'll use my one of my editor. So Sublime is what I'm going to use. You guys are please feel free to use anything you want to, right? If I can go over here, I just open something. I'll open that particular folder. I'll go to my documents and I'll see Angular 2 is there. And once I open it, you can see there is something called package.json. So now this particular package.json, if you can see, it tells me something about this particular directory, and that is nothing but the name is Angular2. That is nothing but the name of my folder, and there is some version description. If you want to add some anything, you can add it. If at all there is any kind of a license agreement, you can do that, like for example MIT or something like that. You can put down your own name as author. I'll put my name over here, right? And yeah, and your main file is going to be index.js. But there is really not need to just get into this kind of things, this kind of in detail as of now. We'll move ahead with the second step over here. If you can see, I'll just take my command prompt at this particular point. I'll just put it over here and I'll place my command prompt somewhere over here. That would be easier for you guys to see. I'll just clear it. I'm sorry for the Linux command. So I'll just clear my terminal, and now what I'm going to do, it will be created with default values. And actually what is the thing is that now I've just created a package.json, and that is created with all my default values. I've just given my name, nothing but all Goran, which could have been given whenever it was prompting me the values for the same on my command prompt, that is terminal on my Mac. Okay, so whatever I'm going to write over here, it remains the same for Windows as well. Okay, so moving ahead, now let us start installing some npm packages. So the first thing which I'm really going to install is Angular package, and that is common Angular package, which is going to be heavily used for Angular 2 programming. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to say npm space. I'm going to write something called install. So there's a command for npm that is called install, and after the space after install, I'm going to write the name of that particular module. So what I'm going to do is over here I'm just going to say Angular, and from there I'm going to say I want to install something called Angular /common, and I'll say something like I want to save it to my package.json. I want this particular entry into my package.json. So once I hit enter, let's see what happens over here, right? It'll ideally start installing Angular-common to my project, which I'm going to create over here. If you can see, now let us see what has changed into my package.json. Now you can see there is something called dependencies which is added, and and there is an entry of Angular-common with the latest version of it. And if you can see, there is a folder called node module which is already created for us, and inside which there is something called Angular-common, which is already it is installed and downloaded, right? So this is how the things are going to be. If at whatever dependencies you guys want to install, it has to be have the dependencies entry to be given over here, because whenever you put your application whenever you want to update your application into any of the version control, you're never going to do it with node.modules. Node underscore modules would never be checked in. That is the best practice. And what you have to do is you have to just keep all your dependencies entry over here into package.json, so that all the so just with one command, that is npm space install, all the dependencies in your particular package.json would be installed into node.modules, and it would be created as dynamically. And these are nothing going to be your build files, which should not be checked in into the version control. So moving ahead, I'll just clear my screen out. I have some more dependencies modules to be installed over here, and what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to say there are loads of things, like something like npm install. Again, there is something like Angular compiler, and I can just put a space and I can give the second the rest of the modules which I want to in the one command. I can do it in rest of the in every different commands as well, but I would like to do it in one go. So I'll just say hyphen Angular core space, I would say Angular HTTP is something I'm going to use. Then I would say something like, you'll come to know whether why are we really using this. Something called platform browser. There would be something called Angular platform browser dynamic. And then there can be something like I would like to use Angular router also, so I would say Angular hyphen router. Yeah, and this is it for now, and I would like to have the entries into my package.json. So just let me just check. Okay, I have written npm space install space Angular compiler, Angular Angular core, Angular HTTP, Angular browser, platform browser dynamic, and route. Once I press enter over here, you can see all my downloading is started, and let's see what happens further. Okay, so this is the traditional way how a Node.js application is set up, and over here we are going to see the step-by-step process of the same. So if you can see over here, if I just open this particular thing, all my dependencies are there present into my node modules, and all my dependencies which I really wanted are there present in my package.json. So moving ahead, I'll again clear my stuff out. There would be some more some more dependencies to be taken care of, and there would be nothing but like npm install, and I would say core -js. There would be something called rxjs, and there is something called zone.js, and it's nothing but save over here. Okay, let me just put an enter over here, so that the rest of my dependencies would also get installed. If you can see, I just open this particular thing, everything is there inside my dependencies, and all my stuff are there present over here. Okay, so then just let's try to move ahead with the stuff. Okay, so actually what is just to give a brief idea about how AngularJS is written. AngularJS was a super framework which was written into ECMAScript 5. That was the earlier version of JavaScript, and that is the version which is identified by the modern browsers. But moving ahead into Angular 2, the code is always written into a TypeScript file. TypeScript is something which is developed and maintained by Microsoft, and definitely if at all you just render a TS file, TypeScript file, into browser is going to tell you that, dude, I really don't know this. So what is going to be, the fallback for this particular problem which you're going to have? So that is going to be solved by something called as module loaders into JavaScript. So module loaders are nothing but, these are nothing but the tools which would convert your TypeScript files, you can say, into a format which your browser can understand. There are various module loaders into market as of now. Something which you have really heard about is nothing but, there are Gulp, there is Grunt, there is something called Webpack, which most of the people really use. But into Angular 2, I'm going to use something called System.js. And System.js, even into AngularJS documentation, you would see System.js is something which these guys really prefer. So for this particular tutorial, I would like to go ahead with System.js. So I'm just going to clear the stuff out, and I'm going to install my my module loader, and that is nothing but npm install system.js. And I'll just save this particular thing off. Yeah, I'm just downloading the stuff. If you can see, I've added system.js over here. Inside my module.js, there's something called system.js. Super. Okay. And then what I am really going to do now, I need to do, I need to install some dependencies which are really present for TypeScript, because TypeScript is something which is really not going to, TypeScript is something which is developed and maintained by Microsoft. So what we are really going to do over here is, let me just open a thing over here. Right, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to now install something for TypeScript as well, because I need some module which would deal with TypeScript. So what I'll do is, I'll just say npm, right, I'll say I just want to install something called TypeScript, and at the same time I would also like to install something called types-node, and this is nothing but type definition which is need to be installed with TypeScript. And these are the things which we would only need whenever we are into a development environment. So that's the reason I'm going to say, okay, I'm just going to say, while installing, I just don't need it as a dependency, I need it as a dev dependency. So when I press enter over here, let's see what happens. Right, right, I'll just show you what has really happened over here. Okay, I'll just, cool. Right, so if you can see, there are something called dev dependencies which are created, and these are nothing but types and TypeScript node. If you can see, it is already present over here, TypeScript and TypeScript node, which is going to be, it is there, created over here. So now when everything is there in place, let's move on further. And what I'm going to do is, over here is that I'm just going to clear this stuff out. And here what I'm going to do is, inside this particular Angular2 folder, I'm just going to create one particular a folder called app. So over here I'll just go, I'll say app, and you say there is one folder which is created. So this is going to be the place where my app is going to reside properly. So here I would just like to create my first TypeScript file, as we have installed all the TypeScript dependencies. I'm just going to say something called new, and then I would just like to say, like, okay, I'm going to create a hello world program. So HELLOWORLD dot component .ts. So this is going to be my naming conventions for my file. This is nothing but something meaningful for my file, that is nothing but hello world, and it is going to be a component, and it is going to be a ts file. So just when I save this particular thing, if you can see inside my application.js, like application folder, you can see there is one TypeScript file which is, you know, created. Now we need to really compile your ts file. If you can see, there is, you know, so before compiling your TypeScript, you know, you have to write some code into this particular, you know, some code which is to be written. Let's just start writing some things out over here. Now firstly I need to import something, right, from my core Angular core module. I'll just go here Angular core, and over here I'll just put a semicolon. If you can see, this is going to be nothing but my Angular core module which I'm going to write, but there is something which I really need to import, and what I'm going to import, it is nothing but, you know, something called component. So from if at all I want to create a component, I'm going to really, you know, import it from this particular module, and then I'll just write something like this. I'm just going to write, you know, a decorator over here, and this particular decorator would be having something like selector. Now selector is nothing but the property, like how a css property, how your DOM is going to identify this particular component. So I would just say nothing but hello. So if at all this component, if at all I want to use it into HTML, I'll use it with the name hello. At the same time I need some, you know, template to be assigned to it, and I would just say something called strong, and I'll just go here and I'll put some message like hello world, right? Moving ahead, I'll just like to export a class. Okay, so now this is nothing but a TypeScript. This is nothing but a sugar coat over plain vanilla, you know, JavaScript. I'll just give a name to my class, and over here I would like to do something like public message, and my message is going to be somewhat like hello world, and I'm, rather than using the inline this text, I would like to do interpolation of message. So let me just explain you what I have done as of now. So as of now, please don't really worry about these, you know, these errors. We are just going to see how are we going to deal with this particular things. So what I've done over here is I've just, you know, created a kind of a component over here, and that is you know, extended by Angular core module. Whatever you can see over here, you know, actually these are called as decorators into Angular2. So what are really decorators? These are nothing but a metadata about this particular class. So this particular component is nothing but, you know, it is giving some more information about this particular class which has been assigned into, which has been written in this particular TypeScript file. So actually it is nothing but a metadata. So what is a metadata? It is nothing but a data about some other data as well. So this is something like, if at all you guys were really familiar about AngularJS, this is nothing but interpolation. Whatever you write inside these two curly brackets, it gets evaluated with respect to what corresponding, you know, variables, if at all there are any, into your Angular project. But as of now, we are not really looking out for some deep study about Angular 2. That would be done in the future videos by me. But as of now, let's just see like how to get the things working over here. So but the thing is, as I told you guys, TypeScript is something not which browser is going to understand. So over here we really need to change or transpile these particular TypeScript files into some other format in which my browser is going to really able to read. So how? So if you can see over here inside node modules, there is a bin folder, and inside bin folder there is something called TSC. So this is nothing but a compiler of TypeScript that is called TypeScript Compiler. So you have to really, you know, write down some code compile whatever TS files which are present inside your application directory. So how I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, I'm just going to node underscore modules. So I'm inside my Angular2 project. I'll say node underscore modules dot bin slash Typescript compiler. Once I hit enter over here, okay, let me just clear the stuff out, and would like to, I just like to do something like, node underscore modules, and then I would like to say dot bin, and then I would like to say something called tsc, and I'm going to use this particular statement via via by my terminal. So I'm just creating a config to tell what is going to be my target should be. Do we need a map, or do we need a debugger or decorator support, something else? So for those particular things we can go ahead. I can just have to say over here, and this is something which output which I have got. So if you can see inside my underscore node modules, there's dot bin, and there is something called tsc. Okay. Okay, so over here actually there is a bit of a problem with the latest TypeScript compiler. So before really going ahead with my TypeScript compiler, there is something which you should really create first. If you can see, there is an error which this particular person is showing, that it is searching for something called ts config, that is nothing but TypeScript config, which is to be there in place to just tell the TypeScript how is it going to compile this particular TypeScript code. So first I'll just clear the stuff out, and would like to create something called ts config, right? So how I'm going to do it, I'm just going to say touch ts config dot json. That is going to be a JSON file. If I do it, if you can see, there is something called TypeScript ts config which is created over here. Over here I'll just write down the code which I already have. I'll just take these things up and just copy the stuff. I'll paste it over here, and I'll just save it. Okay, so now this particular thing, what is it really talking about? So this is nothing but a TypeScript compiler config file which tells the TSC, that is TypeScript compiler, how is it going to compile the TypeScript file which are there into this folder directory, whether what target it should be, what do we really need a map for it, do we need a debugger for it, or do we need a decorator support, or a hell lot of things. Like for example, over here you can see there is something called target. So I want to create a TypeScript file, and my target should be ES5, that is extra ECMAScript 6. What modules are we going to use? There's nothing but a famous design pattern. There's nothing but a common JS design pattern. There is something called module resolution. This is a node app. There's, if at all you need, a source map. So this will also create something called map file, which would be easier, which would help us to debug our code into our browser. And these two particular things are nothing but about the decorators, what I really explained you all about. If at all these two configurations are not given, your Angular 2 would never able to understand this particular decorators which we are writing over here. And these are some extra things which we really need to do. For now it is more than enough. So now let me just go ahead, and I'll just compile my ts file, and I've saved it. If I just go over here, you can see I'm able to connect. I'm able to get 3 files over here. and one is my TypeScript file which I've already written. There's one thing which is a map file which is created, and at the same time there is something called hello world component.js file. Now actually this is the file which my browser is going to understand. It has nothing to do with my TS file. My TS file is converted into plain vanilla JavaScript, which you can see over here, and this is something which my browser is going to understand. So now you can understand how TS compiler is really very useful for us, and how the things are going to be going ahead, and how the output would be there. So now let's create now, moving ahead. Okay, so how AngularJS work is like, as there into Angular 1, we have to have a common module for entire application. So before going ahead, I'm just going to create something called app module. So I'm just going to create one more file over here, and I'm going to say the name of this particular file is app.module.ts, and that is nothing but TypeScript. When I just say okay, I create a TS file over here, and moving ahead, I'm just going to write some code over here. So let me write something like, okay, import uh, something like import. Now just see what thing. So I want to import something called from, I would say, from Angular core only. So if you say at the rate Angular hyphen like /core, and what I'm going to import from here is nothing but ng module. And what particular module is this going to be? It is going to be something which is going to be rendered inside my browser. So how I'm going to tell my Angular app about this particular thing is at the rate Angular /platform hyphen browser. Okay, so this is nothing but the same thing, and over here from here I'll just say this is nothing going to be a browser module. Okay, so moving ahead, now over here I would like to import my hello world component which was there present. So over here I'll say from where now this is going to be my relative part, because these two of the files, the TS file of hello world component and app module TS, it is there into the same directory structure itself. So how I'm going to do is I'm going to access it via /, that is nothing but my current directory, and it is going to be hello world component which is there given by the IntelliSense. And how I'm going to access it, it is going to be with the same name of this particular class. And if you can see over here, if I go to my app.module, I can use this particular, I'm really sorry, I just messed it. Okay, if you can see, I can access it with this particular name only. And then I'm just going to create ng module decorator, and I'm going to give some metadata to it, and that is nothing but imports. Now this is nothing but this is the way how we are going to create a module of something which is going to be rendered on the browser, and it is nothing going to be your browser module. And then you can say it's something like declarations, and your declarations is going to having, now these are nothing but the dependency injection of this particular component, anything which is there present inside your application, or any component or any directive going ahead, it has to be have the entry over here. So I'll just say my hello world component into my declaration, and I'll say bootstrap my app using this particular component only, right? And then I'll just like to export this particular class, and the name would be app module, right? There's nothing but app module which I've created over here, and I'll just save this particular thing. Now I'll just run my TypeScript compiler. If I just enter it, you can see as an output I have also got my JS file for my app module, and it is looking beautiful as of now, as an output of this particular TypeScript, compiler. So now, you know, let me create one more a file from where my app is going to start, and that is something going to be like control S, and it is going to be main.ts, and that is nothing but a TypeScript file. If I just see what I'm going to write over here is nothing but import, that is going to be from Angular browser dynamic, and I'll tell you why I'm really you know going to use this one. So while performing while I'm going to be using it for my development purpose, I need to dynamically transform each and every code of mine which I'm writing and compile it dynamically for that particular purpose. This particular, and I want to render the same thing into my browser. So this is something, a module which will help me to do the same thing. And you can say there is something called platform dynamic over there. Moving ahead, I would like to import my app module, and that is again present in my current directory structure. So I'll access it by /, and it is nothing but app module, and it will be with the class name which I have given, and that is nothing but app module. Okay, so now over here I'll say platform browser dynamic. It would return me an object which would be having something called browser module, and I'll give my app module to this particular file. Now this is looking really great, and what I'm going to do is I'm again going to compile my TypeScript so that I can get JS and JS map for my main.ts as well. Okay, so now we need to set up our application loader, that is nothing but system.js, right? So for that we need to create something called system.config.js, and this is a file that talks about more about Angular definition to be grabbed from what path so as to load them into HTML. Like for example, till now we just have downloaded all our dependencies into node.js module, but our application loader is still not aware of it, like from what path from these particular node modules should I get the definitions for these particular Angular platform, or Angular platform browser, Angular core, or anything else which I'm using into this particular tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create something called system.js dot config.js. So if I just create it, you can see I get a file over here. And moving ahead, I'll just copy out my code over here, and I'll explain you really what does it mean. I'll just put my code over here. So if I just expand my screen, you can see this is nothing but a JS file. Over here, this is nothing but an alias which we have created. I've written my statements like comments over here as well. If you can see, for my node modules going ahead, I'm just going to use this particular alias, and that is nothing but a node package manager. Moving ahead, these are nothing but my core bundlers or my modules which are present inside my application, and regarding to the values are nothing but the places from where my system.js application bundle is going to you know uh, system bundler is going to have its definition from. Like for example, if you can see Angular core, it is asking me to go inside npm, and that is nothing but my node modules. So I go inside this particular folder, and then from there I can see there is a folder called @angular, inside which there is Angular core, there's core, and then there is bundles, and then there is something called core.umd.js, right? So these are the key value pairs are nothing talking but the definition from where I can get these things. At the same time, this is nothing but RJSX, which is used for the transformation of Angular 2 application. And moving ahead, there is something called packages. Okay, so packages is nothing but, now this is nothing but my app packages, and I am asking it to start from main.js, and that is nothing but this particular file which I am talking about. And it just tell the package tell about the system loader how to load when the file is not with particular extension. So even if at all there is no file with no extension, it'll use the default extension at JS, but we have already have files with .js extension over here, and our application is going to start from main.js. This is where we have really configured. But moving ahead, this is not the end of it. We also have to create something called index.html for it to get rendered on my you know browser. At the same time, I'll just force quit my Chrome, and I'll try to let me just open this particular thing off. Oh, okay, and let me just open Chrome again. Okay, it is not happening. Let me just try the same with Safari maybe. It is over here. I'll just open it. Chrome is really not helping me today. Okay, so moving ahead, I'll just okay, so Safari is here for my rescue. Okay, so over here I'll just see, I'll just create something called index.html, and if you can see, it'll get created, and I'll again go and write down my HTML file which is there. I'll just copy the stuff over here and I'll paste it. So now what all things are there, that is things which I have really used. So these are nothing but the modules which are really required by Angular 2 application to load, that is the core.js and zone.js. At the same time, if you can see, this is nothing but your system.source.js, system.js file, that is nothing but application loader. At the same time, it should also have access to your system.js.config.js, so that it gets all the definition from where your app is going to be bootstrapped or something like that. And from here, if you can see, it is importing system.import.app. Now this particular app is talking about this particular entry, that is nothing but main.js. So this is the point of in your HTML where your HTML comes to know what is the file which is to be from where the execution has to be started. And this is nothing but your catch block, which will just throw if at all there is some error or not. So what I'll do is I'll just go into my index dot your HTML. Okay, so before to test your app really possibly in the best possible way, we have to create a lightweight server over here, so that can also be done. So I'll just clear this up. I will create something, a node package called HTTP server, which will just serve my HTML file on the local server on any of the port. So how would I do it? I'll just say npm right install, and I'll say HTTP server, and again it is going to be my development dependency. As I press enter, it'll just get installed over here. I'll just see my package.json, it has to be getting an entry over here, and let me just see. Okay, so if you can see, there is something called HTTP server over here. From here, what really I need to do is I just need to go to this particular path to start my local server, and that is nothing but, you know, Angular model.bin.http server. So if you can see, I'll just go to, you know, something like node underscore modules, and then I will go inside something called bin, and from here I'll go to HTTP server, and I will just say at what port I need to start. I would start it at 8080. I'll just put it and enter. If you can see, it is prompting me that my server is started at 8080. So let me just go to my browser and I'll say localhost nothing but 8080. If you can see, there are some logs which are there on my screen. Let me just see. You can see, yes, my application is working well over here. That is nothing but hello world. If you can see, this is the same thing which I have written into my application, and that is nothing but inside my hello world component.ts over here. That's nothing but hello world. So this is it about today's session. But at the same time, I would really like to go on a bit further and would like to add some scripts over here. So these are nothing but okay. So if you can see, I can go into my package.json and I can write some scripts so that, you know, writing this, but these particular, I'll just stop this thing. I'll just say Control C and clear the stuff out over here. If you can see, just writing these particular lines every time I just, you know, change my files, it is really a painful thing. So what I can really do is, there is I can start my Typescript compiler, you know, this particular compiler with a mode called something as, you know, hyphen watch. So let's see what happens. So if when I, you know, I just start, this is my Typescript compiler with a watch command as an argument to this Typescript compiler. So if you can see, it is just watching for file changes. So let me just go into my component.ts and let me just hello world. I'm adding something, you know, over here, and I'm just, once I'm saving it, if you can see, it has started the compilation on its own again, and my app should be ready working with the latest code. If I go over here and if I just, you know, okay, so again I need to start my HTTP server for the same. So for the same thing again, I need to, you know, change the things out over here, and I just need to go to this particular bin and I have to say HTTP server, and I want to run it on maybe some other node, other ports of like 8090. I can do the same over here. So now over here I have to just go and I have to just change this particular port. I have just put entry, and you can see now I can have this particular command. But actually these two commands, right, whatever I'm trying to say, like Typescript compiler and something else, like these are nothing but two different commands, and that has to be worked concurrently so that my browser also starts at the same time, and at the same time my Typescript compiler is also waiting for this thing to, you know, happen. So what I am going to do is, I'll just stop this particular thing and I'll just clear the stuff out. I'll use some an HTTP you know, a node package called concurrently, which help us to run two commands at the same time. And how I'm going to do that, I'm just going to say npm install, and I'll say something like concurrently concurrently, and it is nothing going to be my development dependency. Let me just install it for now. It'll get installed to my local machine as my, you know, as my dev dependencies. If again I'll just go to my package.json over here, there's something called concurrently. So how am I going to write it? my code. So if you can see, there is something called scripts over here. I'll add some scripts over here, and that is nothing but something called watch. Now this watch is going to be, I'm going to write the same command which I had written over here, and that is going to be something called, node underscore modules into bin and tsc, and I'll start it with watch command. Now it is superb. At the same time, I'll also write something called start, and that is nothing but it will start my node underscore modules dot bin, and it will be http server, and it will be running at port 8070 maybe. Okay, and this is it. And then I'll be writing, or I'll just change it to something called server, and then over here I'll just say npm start, and then I would just write my concurrent commands, and that is nothing but concurrently. Okay, I'll be writing, I want to first start my server. So how I'm going to do that is nothing but npm run server, and the second command which I would like to I would like to run is nothing but npm run watch. But over here definitely it has some problems. So how I can put some escape characters over here so that my file doesn't distort, or yeah. So it is superb. Let me just clear the stuff out over here, and let me just run npm .run.start. So I'll just say npm .run.start, and if I just press enter, let us see what happens. So now if you can see, now these are nothing but two particular, if you can see, my server is also running at the port, and at the same time my TypeScript compiler watch is also running, so that I don't need to change my code there and there. So if you can see, if I just go there again into my component.ts, and I just change this particular thing off, or let me first travel to 8070. That is where my application will be there present, and I would just say Gorang, and I'll just put 3 exclamations over here. If you can see, it has detected the changes, and if I refresh over here directly, I have to hard reload the page for now actually. Okay, I don't know how are we going to do it in this particular stuff. Okay, I'll just control shift. Let me see if I do the same thing so this is the basic thing. Okay, so I just need to clean my my hard reset, and that is nothing but bookmarks. I just clean my server, and that is nothing but so I'm not usually I work with Chrome, and this is something new, which is I'm not a frequent user of Safari. Actually, what I just need to do is I need to just hard reload. Maybe I'll help it. I'll search over here. If I do it, this is really not helping me out. I don't know. I just go to I'll just say how to hard reload Safari web page. Okay, hit something called option plus command plus E. So I'll just go over here. I'll say option plus command plus E. It is not really loading the stuff out. Okay, so over here I'll just go and say, I'll say command and R. Okay, so this is the stuff, if you can see. So it is working quite properly. I'll just go and change some other things over here. I'll just remove this stuff off. Okay, I'll just save it, and you can see all my changes are taken care of. And I'll just go here and I'll reload this particular page. It is still not there. No. Okay, if okay, so it has taken change. Yes, it has taken my change, I guess, and it should be there working properly. Oh, I don't really have no clue why this thing is happening, but this is kind of whatever example I'm giving. I'll just try to figure it out and let you guys know into some other this thing. uh, let me just see whether my my Safari is helping me out. No, it is really not helping me out. Okay, but it would it should. If you just yeah, it would just give me, if you can go over here and refresh this thing out. Okay, anyways, I don't want to waste much of your time over here, but this was the basic flow of how your application is going to be you know written and configured for Angular 2. So moving ahead, I'll just fix this particular problem and I'll get back to you guys with the better way of doing the same stuff. And thanks a lot, guys. Over here, I'll just switch off my video. Let us meet on the next features of the Angular 2.